My name is Timothy Sutherland. Last Sunday, straight-in high school class of 1982, we lost one of our own. Bob Hoffman, Robert Hoffman, passed away the morning of the 3rd. While Bob was ill, I got a lot of people messaging me asking what's going on, and people contact me now that he passed away asking what's going on, so I'm trying to cover it all in this one video. On the 23rd, Bob went to the grocery store, and as he was checking out, he collapsed. There was somebody in line that administered CPR until the ambulance got there and they took him to the hospital. Bob was at the hospital for the week. He was in intensive care until about Thursday. Friday they put him into hospice, and he passed away Sunday morning. During that week, of course, his sister Karen, his brother Mike, his mom Carol held vigil with Bob. And it was just a constant flow of Bob's friends from over the years coming to wish him the best, visit with him, and maybe talk to him, hopefully snap him out of it. Bob passed away at 7:30 Sunday morning with his mother Carol at his side. Plans moving forward, his sister Karen, he is being cremated. And then his sister Karen is trying to plan a celebration of life memorial party sometime in late April or sometime in May. She's looking at venues. She doesn't want to use a funeral home for that. Maybe just a regular outlet. If you know of any, reach out. She's looking anywhere between Fort Lauderdale and the Palm Beach County line. The family has asked that you post stories of how you met Bob. Funny stories. I think they would really appreciate that. And with that, I'm going to start. So I met Bob at Rogers Middle School. We were in Miss Johnson's class, sat next to each other. Remember that class a bit. Bob and I basically had the same sense of humor, got along great. I remember Whitney Keith was in that class, Jack Needy was in that class, a few others. And probably my first Bob story, because a lot of kids in that class would torture Miss Johnson. And how'd they do that? Well, at the time, the school was being re-roofed, retarred. And the kids would bring in these little balls of tar. And when she wasn't looking, they'd start throwing them on her desk. Well, that poor woman thought the roof was caving in. She'd see them on the desk, freak out, think they're coming through the ceiling, and she'd go running up to the office. I can only imagine what they told her up there. Probably sent her back, said, finish teaching your class, they're pulling your leg. Throughout high school, we used to hang out a lot. Probably a person's house we hung out with at the most. Kid named Rusty was a class ahead of us, straight in 1981. Lived right around the corner from the Southport Raw Bar. But very often you could find me and Bob, Rusty, Joe Castoro, some of the others hanging out there. And Joe Castoro was also class of 82. He passed away 6 or 7 years ago. Another sad loss. And we also do pretty much all the kids back then with video games. You had Space Invaders, Centipede, Asteroids. And I remember the first time I saw any of those. We were at the game room out on the beach at Lagomar. A bunch of us would go over there, play, run up the quarters. Of course, the place that we all really played was Council Park. And to me, I was like Miss Pac-Man. And we would certainly go play that a lot. Occasionally we'd make it out to Grand Prix. A couple other stories following Bob when I'll kind of diverge a little bit. I'm sure we all have friends and parents who think of us based on some stupid thing from years ago. So in this case, Bob was living in DeLand at the time, and he was going to drive down and meet with me and Dave Bachman. So I was over at Dave Bachman's house, and we're waiting and waiting and waiting. Where's Bob? Well, it turns out on the way he got lost and managed to circle Lake Okeechobee completely, full circle. So I'm sure that added some hours to his drive. Then he shows up, the car he couldn't have even paid $50 for. And of course, that's where I was talking about with the parents, because to this day, Dave's mom remembers Bob as the kid with the crappy car. And she remembers me as the kid with the bike chain, because I showed up once. And the chain I used to lock my bike hanging from my shoulder. So almost 50 years later, I'm Bike Chain Kid. The other thing about the car that cracked me up is the windshield wiper. Bob had a string attached to it. I was asked, why do you have a string on there? Well, apparently the windshield wiper doesn't work, so he would use the string and just in the car if it was raining. Another time, I was driving down I-4 this Christmas, about 20 years ago now. I remember it because I was talking to Bob just the week before he went in hospital that week, and we were still laughing about that one-in-a-lifetime coincidence. I'd called him, wished him a Merry Christmas. We got to talk, and turns out he was on I-4 on his way home from his mom's in DeLand, and I just happened to be about a half mile behind him. So he pulled over, I pulled over. We had a 2-minute reunion on the side of the interstate. I don't recommend it. Pretty dangerous. That's how it happened. And of course, the other thing, my daughter used to tease him. She insisted he was dyeing his hair. He insisted he wasn't. They would just go back and forth on that matter. Bob insisting he was still naturally black as he pushed 60, and my daughter's gone, no way. I didn't know Bob worked as a DJ bartender for most of his life. I just stopped about a year ago, decided to retire. I believe he got his start at Hooligans. It's a restaurant or a bar that was in Hollywood, Florida. It was owned by Joe Castoro's dad. I can still picture the two of them behind the bar having a good time, and quite a bunch of us went there also for a good time. So I'm going to wrap it up, last analogy, and then we're going to have pictures taken over the years. Many of them are going to be from the class reunions, class parties. You may recognize yourselves in it. And that is, Bob's favorite song was the Unicorn Song. It's basically a long time ago when the earth was green. There are more kinds of animals than you've ever seen. Cats and rats and elephants. Sure as you're born. The loveliest of all is the unicorn. And he would play that all the time. We used to go to Ground Round. I think it was out 441. We'd have the whole restaurant singing it before the end. Before I understand, Bob would play it. He'd be playing some dance music at the clubs he would work at. And then between all that, he would throw in the unicorn. Of course, everybody stops wondering, what the heck is he doing? And that's Bob for you. Or the pictures.
Hello, Mr. Tim. My name is Robert. I'm a Nigerian prince, and I have accidentally misplaced $4 billion. I need to send it to your bank account so we can work out some kind of deal. So you can keep 10% of that. So call me back. Bye.